Hey, just a wrap up of the initial testing stage and preliminary review of the Fallkniven A1 survival knife. This knife is like a large midpoint between having a really big slasher or really big chopper and having like a smaller companion knife like a bushcraft black, for example. This knife is really overbuilt, really strong, and certainly made to be that infallible bush or woods companion that you can certainly rely on. And after putting it through some pretty rigorous testing, I'd be happy to vouch for that as well. Unsurprisingly, it's a very well made knife. Fallkniven aren't known for making terrible knives, they're known for making very high quality knives. Definitely a very sort of classic design. The edge is a convex edge which runs from this line here, so it's flat to that point, and then a convex all the way down to the edge. The edge does have a slight micro bevel, so it's a little bit steeper to make it a bit tougher, because VG10, when it's ground too thin, can sometimes chip and roll, that sort of thing. So I haven't had any problems with this through my testing. My testing included some battening. The first thing I did was get the same wood from the same stash as the wood that smashed the Boker Vox rolled, and yep, just completely went to town on that wood, and the knife certainly went through it until I got to a second piece, which I thought the knife would go through fine, and it just didn't. Nothing was going through that piece of wood. I laid the knife on the back of the wood, smacked the spine as hard as I could, the knife just bounced off. So it didn't become so much of a test of the lateral strength of the knife, it became a test for the knife edge, because really it was like smashing the knife into a hard, flat surface. Did not give it all, so I went and had to get a hatchet, which still didn't split it. Even trying to baton the hatchet through didn't work, so I had to go and get my big old Fiskars X25 splitting axe and run it through with that just to prove that it could be done. It ended up being a very knotty, very fresh, sappy piece of wood still, so it just had that weight and density to it. Anyway, the knife put up with that just fine. The edge is still very sharp. After I finished splitting, I grabbed some wood and started carving and shaving with it. One thing you do notice, this convex edge, you need to alter your standard, the way you normally hold a knife. So with this Mora, for example, the edge is very fine. You don't need to really dig it in a great deal. You can just sort of skim it across the surface, it feels like, to get a result, whereas this one you do need to sort of tilt your angle just a little bit more, as you see me doing in the footage. But once you get that sweet spot, it shaves really well. Nice having a long edge, you can sort of draw a bit of a draw cut across the wood. Works pretty well. I can't see having any issues using this for your single sole fire prep or even wood carving tool. It wouldn't be the most fun wood carving, and you wouldn't be able to make anything too detailed probably, but just for getting something like a tent peg done, or like a spoon or something like that, you'd have no worries at all with this knife. The knife is heavy. It's a very blade heavy knife, so the weight is, the balance point's after the handle, so it's just about there. Which is, it's a full tang handle, and it's got quite a thick tang as well, and the handle's not a lightweight plastic, it's sort of a heavier rubber plastic, so the weight when you hold it definitely feels like it's a bit forward, but it's still quite well balanced in hand. You've got a little choil there, so you can get the sharpening done all the way. I'd just be using a leather strop or maybe a mouse pad covered in sandpaper to sharpen this knife back. Just keep that convex edge going. Thickness, 1/4 inch thick, so this is sort of about as thick as they make a Mora knife, so you can sort of see there how much thicker it is. This is the cold steel leather neck in comparison. Quite a thick knife, but this is thicker. The coating, very similar to the cold steel leather neck coating, so it's sort of starting to come off after a few hours of use, so that's fine, understandable. Adds sort of to the personal nature of the knife. It's got your wear on it, if you know what I mean. The spine is flat, but I think, as I said before, this is a softer steel that's cladding the harder VG10 core, so you don't really want to run a fire steel up against it, because it does sort of take little, and it's purely, I guess, purely show and shine, but it does take little runs out of the back of the knife blade if you do it too hard. So just use your striker with your fire steel. The handle is very comfortable. As you can see when you compare it to the Fallkniven F1 handle, they've made some modifications to it to make it a sort of a bigger, beefier survival knife. They've added finger choil made it certainly a lot deeper when compared to the F1. The F1 sort of feels more, after use, I used to think the F1 was like a survival knife. It certainly sort of re-entered my system as a bit more of a companion knife. It's a very strong, thick, stout knife, about as strong as you could get a companion knife actually, but this one's certainly made to be much more heavy duty use. So the belly of the knife handle's been emphasised a bit so you get a more comfortable grip. The handle's thicker. It's a sort of similar style, but apart from that, it's actually fairly different in hand. The rubber is quite grippy. It's not a sticky rubber, but it's certainly certainly not plastic either. It's when you run your fingernail across it, you can sort of feel your fingernail sort of rolling over the top rather than sticking it, like dragging across plastic. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but certainly more rubberized than say. You know, it's about on par with this cold steel handle here. It feels about the same. Apart from the obvious pattern, but the material feels the same. So after I batoned, I did some shaving and I did a bit of chopping. All in all, the knife does all three essential bush tasks really, really well, and it's also supported by the fact that it seems nigh indestructible. So it's a very good buy, I think. It's about $340, so it's a lot of money for a knife, but I would have no hesitation doing with it something that I probably wouldn't do even with the leather neck. I was a bit hesitant at first, but once it got through that first bit of really gnarly, nasty wood, I thought, nah, this will be fine. I was most worried about the edge rolling, but the edges stayed just, it must be the edge type they do on it, stayed nice and strong. Still very, very sharp. Still shaves hair. And mine did come hair shaving and paper cutting sharp. Some people say that theirs is they come with a bit too steep an edge, not steep, a bit too broad an edge, so it's not particularly shaving sharp, but it's a very good working edge anyway. Even if you do get one of the less ultra sharp ones. Another good thing they've done with this is they've put the lanyard hole back a bit. So if you're into lanyards, people often said about the F1 the lanyard hole was a bit pointless almost because it's yeah. Goes a bit too far back and it actually gets blocked out by the sheath. This one is in the right spot if you do want to use the lanyard, which I don't particularly like lanyards. When I was holding the knife, the big test of a knife handle comfort for me is when you chop for prolonged periods of time. The knife is as comfortable as you would expect a knife to be using it to chop, and that is nowhere near as comfortable or as it doesn't feel as proper doing it as it does with an axe. An axe handle has it's a lot of different features on it that makes it better for that, but it's about as good as you'd hope. There's no jimping of such to dig into your hand when you're doing rougher tasks, and the grippiness of the handle is what keeps it secure, so there's no need to be grooving out the steel or anything like that to make it sort of more locked in. This sort of handle is my favourite on knives. I don't like slab handles as much. So there's SE3. This is a companion knife, so it's not a big deal, but on your heavy duty swinging, pounding survival knives, I like to have my hand, I like to have a barrier between my hand and the knife tang, and this one does just that. It's still obviously a full tang knife, still very thick tang there, probably slightly slimmer than the knife, but all in all, got no concerns with the durability of the blade whatsoever. So the Fallkniven A1, what do you think? I think it's worth $340. I'm inclined to think it is. The only thing that doesn't feel like it's worth $340 is the sheath. The sheath is just very much utilitarian. So it's very basic. It's just plastic. It's not it is Zytel. It's not Kydex or anything cool like that. Knife doesn't form fit it or anything like that. It's just secured by this tab here. So knife, while it's a practical sheath and it's a waterproof sheath, which is why I got it over the leather one, it doesn't feel like it has that sort of specialness to it that the actual knife does when you have it in hand. So I'll probably be seeking a custom Kydex maker. I've been looking at Martin sheaths to perhaps get a custom Kydex number done for this blade. But apart from that, I'm just completely stoked with the knife. I certainly won't be doing anything like selling it or getting rid of it. I might even engrave it and make it definitely mine. As you can see, the edge, the paint has started to come off a little bit, but again, that sort of just adds to the uniqueness of the blade. So there we have it, Fallkniven A1. Stay tuned, folks, because this is sort of just more the interim review. I'll be taking this knife, my drink bottle, and a fire steel, and that's it. And I'll be going in camping in one of the local forests in the next couple of weeks once I've got a night off. So I'll be doing that as more of a complete test of the knife. I'll be using it for literally everything, so from building shelters to making fires. So, and then it'll be a bit cooler by then, so be a bit more of a challenge. So stay tuned for that. But as for now, I have no hesitation recommending anyone go and buy this knife. And I think the test I did on it today are probably harder than any test you do in reality. I wouldn't be ever smashing it against, I'd just be working out something else to do rather than smashing into like that super hard, nasty wood. So I'd say the strength of the knife has been proven already. Cool. Thanks for watching, dudes. I'll see you in the next video.